if God was here right now, if Jesus was on this planet, where would he be? Where would Jesus be in this world? Sometimes we're not getting a glimpse of God. Some of you have been Christians all your life. Christianity for some of you has become a bit boring. You know, mainly because you got God in the box. You know, he's a Sunday morning box, or it's a Wednesday afternoon box, or it's a whatever box. And God has become a little bit boring. We've got to get him out of the box. But we've got to be living where Jesus is living. You want to see Jesus. If Jesus is over there and you're over here, you might not see him. And where would he be? He would be with the poor and the lame and the crippled and the hurting and the blind and all those people who are in great need. That's where Jesus would be. And if you want to get a glimpse of Jesus, you better go where Jesus is, or you're not going to see him. And as Christians who have been on this planet, as Christians for any length of time, that's where he expects us to be. If we want to see Jesus, we've got to come alongside him and see him and be where he is and follow in his steps. I want to close it with this story. It's a true story told by a lady by the name of Jean Geetson. Jean Geetson's family, many years ago, went to the store, like many of you have done maybe even this year, and bought themselves a little nativity scene. They took it home and they set it up on the kind of mantle or somewhere like that. And as they got it out to the box, they were getting all the pieces out, and you know, there was a little stable, and there was a Mary and a Joseph, and there were a couple of sheep, and a couple of camels, and there were three. Actually, she said there were two shepherds, and there were three wise men. They got them all out, but there were two baby Jesuses. They've got the one out, and they put baby Jesus in the manger, and they got a spare baby Jesus. And so they said, well, maybe there's somebody at that store who's bought a nativity scene, and it doesn't have Jesus in it. So she told her kids, said, kids, go back, and she was one of the kids, go back and tell the store manager to put a notice on the boxes at the left that if you're missing Jesus, call 7126. This is a true story, apparently. I don't know. Call 7126. So sure enough, next time they went by there, they saw this little cardboard, little piece of paper there, missing Jesus, call 7126. They were expecting a phone call, right? And well, after a little while, every time the phone would ring, Mum would say, well, that'd be somebody calling about Jesus. And no, it wasn't. It was something else. And then the phone would go again, and the kids would say, oh, it's probably somebody calling about Jesus. And no, it wasn't. Anyway, it went on like this for all the time leading up to Christmas. Christmas Eve, they were getting concerned that someone had bought a nativity scene, and Dad was getting a little irate with all this. It was getting a little ridiculous. Dad was saying, well, this is nonsense. They said, they've sold these things all over the country. He said, it's probably, and it's just a packing error. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And anyway, on Christmas Eve, Mom said, well, I want you to go back to the store and check to see if there's any left. If there's none left, then we'll know that somebody's probably going to call us tonight. He said, it's minus 15 out there. You want me to go to the store? He said, and the kids said, we'll come with you. We'll come with you. So the kids got their coats on, and they went off, and they went to the store. They were ahead of Dad, and Dad was kind of, I don't really want to be doing this. And he was following the kids, and all the kids got there, and the boy who was there said, oh, they've all gone, we've got to find out tonight. And as soon as Dad heard this, he just turned around and started walking home, and got to the door, and they were about to go in. Well, he went in, and Mom wasn't there. And baby Jesus was gone. So they said, somebody must have called while we were out. And she's taken baby Jesus to the family that didn't have one in their nativity scene. And then the phone rang. And they said, that must be them. No, it can't be. The baby Jesus is already gone. And it turned out it was Mom. And Mom said, you need to come over to 205 Chestnut Drive and tell your Dad to bring some cookies and some milk and some warm blankets. And Dad checks it out and says, 205 Chestnut Drive, that's the other side of town. I don't want to go the other side of town. It's minus 20 out. We tend to exaggerate. It went from minus 15 to minus 20. He said it must be minus 20 out. When you want to get your own way, you do those kind of things. And so And he said, just come on, this is important. And so off they went. They got in the car and they went to the other side of town. And as they got to this house, 205, it was the only house on the street that had no lighting in it, apart from just the flicker of a candle. And they walked in, and mother came to the door and told her the story of what had happened. This woman's husband left her just a few weeks ago. Took everything from the house, most of the furniture, took all the bedding. She's got no money. She's working as hard as she can. But the furnace is broken down. It was freezing in there. The furnace had broken down. And she can't afford to fix it. And the woman said, I keep walking by this store. And it said, if you're missing Jesus, call 7162. I said, I'm a Christian, actually, and I'm not missing Jesus. But I saw that sign, and I figured that you were good Christian folk, and that if I needed help, you'd come. And so I called your number. And so Mum said, I've told her that you can fix the furnace. Do you like that? I told her that you can fix the furnace. So he says, okay. So he goes off and he's starting to work on the furnace, and they get in the blankets, and Mama got to the stove and warmed some milk up and made some, and when the kids saw the cookies, they were so excited, and after a little while, Dad was actually getting excited about this. He said, and he started to work on the furnace, and he said, do you have a telephone? They said, yes, we have a telephone. So they went to the telephone, and he called up his friend Ed and said, Ed, I need some parts, and said, and in the back of your truck, don't you have some oil? And he said, yeah, he has some oil. So bring it up to my house first. We've got to get some other stuff. So they all went home, and they got the truck loaded up. The kids went home as well, and they got some of their own toys out of the closet, and they wrapped up toys, and they got some food together, and they loaded it all back onto the truck, and they drove back to 205 Chestnut Avenue, and they fixed the furnace, and they gave them some things to eat and some clothes to wear and some little bits of furniture to put in their house again. And because, she didn't need Jesus, she didn't think. But she needed the love of God through the people that loved Jesus more than anything else. If you're missing Jesus, call 7162. It might not work, 7162 right now. But you know what? Could people say that to you? If you need Jesus, call 476-2227. That's my number. Or you put your number in there. Because we need to be where Jesus is. And if we want to get a glimpse of Jesus and see him at work in the lives of people, we've got to be in the places where Jesus would be. And he would be with the hurting and those that need healing and those who are going through tough times and those who are struggling.